Hi, everybody. Welcome to the course of leadership. This is the first session. I am so glad to talk to you about the leadership. As you know, in the first session, we have two chapters for studying, chapter 1 and chapter 2. And I don't know, is there anybody out there to hearing my voice or not? Chapter 1, it is the definitions and significance of leadership. As you see, the definition of leadership is a leader is any person who influences individuals and group within an organization, helps them in the establishment of goals, and guides them toward achievement of the goals. Let me see other part of my computer that you can see it. What some, yes, keywords. It's better than the previous. In this definition of leadership, you can see three keywords: organization, goals, and effectiveness. So leadership in your course, leadership as a general word, it is phrase for organization, for the movement. And what is the main function of leadership? It is goals. Establishment goals, goal settings and achievement. And after that, when you talk about the goals, you should have effective. After passing the course of leadership, you should be more effective than before that, the course of leadership. And key elements of leadership, there are three key elements for leadership: group phenomenon, goal-oriented behaviors, and existence of hierarchy. When you say goal phenomenon, you are talking about an organization. It is group phenomenon, no leaders without followers. If you don't have any followers, you don't have anyone to follow you in your path, you are not a leader. Leaders have always followers. And goal-oriented leaders guide and influence others toward the goal. We should talk about it before that you should have some goals for your leadership. An existence of hierarchy. In an organization, the first thing is hierarchy. You should know, leaders should know, other staffs, other employees, other workers should know the hierarchy. Existence of hierarchy within the group is one of the key elements of leadership. And definition of leadership effectiveness. Leaders are effective when their followers achieve their goals, function well together, and adapt to changing demands of external forces. So we have three keywords here: achievement, function, adaptation. At first, leaders are effective when their followers achieve their goals. If you have a leader that cannot help you to achieve your goals, okay, that's not a good leader. And if you as a group members, you cannot function well together, okay, that's not a good leader. The function of leadership, effective leadership, is function the group members well together and adapt to the changing demands of external forces. It is a lot of external of the group that forces the group, for example, social forces, economic forces, marital forces, and familiar forces. They are all the forces that forces one person, one member of a group, a leader should harmonize or orchestrate these forces that finally a group as a group as a lot of family members, a lot of group members, a lot of, for example, organizational members, work together and adapt to the changing demands of external forces. Key elements of effectiveness. In the previous definition of leadership effectiveness and key elements of effectiveness. 1, the group achieve its goals. When and where a leader is effective, when and where his or her group achieve their goals. If you as a leader cannot lead your group lead your organization, lead your family, lead your society, lead your community to achievement their goals, you are not a good leader. You are not an effective leader. Honestly, we don't have any bad leader or good leader. We have effective leader and non-effective leader. The group members work well together, smooth internal functions. Well together, function well together, work together. They are cooperated, not simple and single operations. The group can adapt well to external changes, as we talked about before. Why do we need leaders? It's a very, very, very basic question. Why do we need leaders? As a romantic ideal, I have abbreviated the keywords in a one abbreviation, EVE, VOA. As you know, VOA is the abbreviation of Voice of America. EVE, VOA, it is I as ideal, F, focus, V, validation, O, order, A, accomplish. EVE, VOA is a necessity abbreviation for the necessity, showing the necessity of leadership. I, ideal, as a romantic ideal. What a good word, romantic ideal. We always need a leader, a manager, a chief. To keep focus on group goals. Focus, concentration, focal point. To help make sense of the world by providing validation. Leaders give the group members the validation of the world by the meaning, by the share meaning, by the producing meaning, by creating meaning, and also creating goals, share meanings, to keep group orderly, discipline. Discipline is the basic and the first element for a group, and to accomplish complex tasks. Leadership is one part. For example, as you see in a family, as you see in a school, as you see in an organization, a lot of tasks should be done. Only some part, a little part of them are simple tasks. Others are complicated tasks or complex tasks. A lot of details, a lot of procedure needed to do the tasks. To accomplish complex tasks, why we say a good leader and an effective leadership should force to the group members to work together good, function well together. Why we said? Because a lot of tasks are complex tasks and nobody as a one person can do it. He or she needs other people help, other people joining to complex tasks, to accomplish complex tasks. This harmonization, this orchestration, this coordination is the major part of leadership. Obstacles to effective leadership. Okay, that's good. We are passing the course of leadership by our teacher in CalMU, and after that, we will become effective leaders. I hope. But in reality, a lot of people with a high degree of passing courses in leadership are not effective leadership. They didn't have any effective leadership, and they are not good and effective leaders. Why? First, environmental uncertainty. Okay. You can control yourself, your organization, internal conditions. Sometimes you can control. It is not absolutely absolute. It is relatively. But you can control. But external forces, environmental uncertainties. It is not a matter of certainty. It is a matter of uncertainty. It is a matter of ambiguity. The future is not very, always is not very brilliant and bright. Organizational rigidity. Some forces are in contrast to you, resistant to you. Everybody is human. Everybody of human, every human being is change resistance. And organizations are shaped by the members, by the persons, by the human beings. And falling back on old ideas and simplistic solutions. You have complex problems. What you want to use an old, simple solutions. New problem, new solutions. Establish organizational culture. Okay, it is a little different, but it's very, very slight difference between the organizational culture and using the old versions of problem solutions methods and problem solving methods. For example, why? Because when you have some rigid and very fixed and stable organizational culture, it is very, 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 it is much relative to your old ideas. So these are together. And inaccessible research is one of the great problems also for the previous generations of leadership, because nowadays a lot of leaders, as scientific leaders, as the organizational leaders, use their research to high performance, good performance, and other leadership science. Leadership is now a science. It is not a personality trait. Also personality traits are involved in leadership, but leadership is a science. So we have some keywords here: uncertainty, rigidity, old ideas, culture, and research. Wow, such a good question. What are the difference between leadership and management? Very, very basic question. A lot of people think that every manager is a leader, or every leader should be a manager. And before all of them, every manager and every leader is a boss, is a chief. And sometimes we cannot distinguish between them. Okay. Leadership and management. Managers focus on the present, maintain the status quo, implement policy, maintain existing culture and structure, remain aloof and objective, and use position power. These are the features of manager. Why? Manager is for the maintenance and good quality of an administration, of a business, of an organization. Management is the art of administration. Okay. So focus on the present moment, here and now. Maintain the status quo, stable, just here, just now, and ordering and discipline for this part of life as an important part of organizational life. So it is implement policy, the same as the same theory. Maintain existence, culture, and structure. As you see, all the features of the manager, in contrast to leaders, are focused on here and now. Present moment. Not present moment, it is present situation. Management is not a matter of changing. Management is a matter of maintenance. leadership. In contrast with managers, leadership is a matter of changing. It's goal-oriented, future-oriented. So you see that leaders focus on the future and create change. What type of leaders are you that you cannot change anything? You are a manager. At the best version, you are a manager. You are not leader. Leadership is a matter of change. And initiate policy. And that time we have implement policy. How can you work the same jobs, the same acts? But initiate policy, how can you do the new things, the new acts, achieving the new goals? So when you want to achieve something new, you should shift or switch or change your previous way. If you do the same thing, you will achieve the same results. As I say always, the same wrong ways, the same wrong gains. It's okay. You cannot change anything. You cannot, nothing will change. Okay. So create new culture and structure. When you think about it, we are talking about two elements, culture and structure, not only culture. When, for example, you are talking about the behavioral culture in an organization, and you don't have any behavioral structure, you have organizational structure, you don't have any new structure. You know, the structure has building, it is mindset, it is emotional structure, it is action structure. How do you behave in your organization? New behaviors, new actions, new feelings, new thinkings, it is mindsets. When you don't have this part of an organization, you cannot create new culture. We will talk about it. Culture is a matter of practicing the old version of behaviors or practicing and practicing and practicing the new styles of behavior, styles of mind, styles of thinking, styles of behaving, styles of feeling. And after that is new culture. Establish emotional bonds. It's a very good indicator for leaders. When you're talking about emotional bond, you are talking about charisma. Charisma is the dominancy on the heart, not dominancy on the thinking. Charisma is a matter of influence, not authority, not dominancy. It's a matter of influence to other people's hearts, to other people's feelings, as it takes to you establish emotional bonds with followers. They have emotional bonds, but you see that the managers are staying a little far from you. They have a good distance with you, not emotional bond. See, okay, they manage the organization. It is good, but we are talking the basic features of leaders. It's not bad to be a manager. We are talking about the differences. Leaders have emotional bonds and use personal power. When your place is in the heart of other people's, you cannot use and you should not use your power situation. Power situation is for organization. You are a manager, you have authority in your organization, and you can do your power situation. But leader and leadership is a matter of charisma, influencing to the heart. You are one part of the other people, your followers. You're part of their dreams, their character, their hope to the future. You are part of these matters. So you have personal power, not only an even position power. It is personal power. Keywords are time, here and now, change, create change, policy, initiate policy. culture, new structure, bonding, emotional bonds, and also power. In that part is position power, and in this part is personal power. I focused on the differences between leadership and management because a lot of questions always are asking about these differences. But gender differences in roles. At first, I want to talk to you about the gender differences. Gender differences is sometimes really about the brain structure, as the MRI and fMRI shows the scientists that there are gender differences between female and male in the brain structure. It is not related only to the, for example, culture or, for example, family training or your education. Basically, they are some of the gender differences in the brain structure in the male, in the women, and in the female, women, and male and men. Okay, but we are talking about the managerial procedure or leadership procedure and other things about the female managers and male managers. At first, indicate that. At first, please pay attention to the last two differences. There's no difference here. All of them, male managers and female managers have complex network because manager and prefer face-to-face communication. Okay. But the other things are different. At first, female managers calm a steady pace of work. They don't work non-stop without any stop. Calm a steady pace of work. Pace of work for female managers are very, very, very good and rational. But sometimes unrelenting pace of work could be seen in male managers. And then do a wide variety of tasks, male managers, but female managers, frequent breaks, have some breaks. In the other side, male managers have frequent interruptions. Oh, female managers, their perception is not a matter of interruption. They did not perceive interruptions. So bad and so out of communication that male managers have little time to communicate. As you see in their organization, sometimes male managers are very aggressive or sometimes passive aggressive, and it is not about the assertiveness. They are not assertive. They only order. They didn't have any comment. They have always comment to the personnel, to the staff, to employees. But female managers schedule time for communication. In their daily plan, you see the time for communication. Also, it is related to the brain structure of female. A few non-work activities, work and work and work and work. Male managers always work. Non-work activity, very few. Also, new generation of male managers are changing their lifestyle, but totally few non-work activities. But in female manager, we see many non-work activities. Working is the brilliant part of a female manager, but it is not the only part. It is the main part, but it is not the only part. The main course of a female manager may be her work, but the spicy is not the work. So a male manager has many non-work activity. But for male manager, female manager has many non-work activity. But male managers, sorry, he has few non-work activities. So because of these ingredients, male managers go to isolation, loneliness. out of society. They are not antisocial, but sometimes they are asocial. Sometimes, not always. They are manager. But after work, they are not very good working to others. But connected to others, yes, female managers. And identity tied to work and multifaceted identities for female and male manager. Complex network, and prefer face-to-face. So we have Mr. His here, Mr. His here, MRHIS, M for modeling, R for reward, HI for hiring, and S for strategy. What is this? Mr. His. Mr. His is the roles that a leader can play to make organizational culture. First, M, role modeling. He or she is the role model for the others, for creating an organizational culture, or he or she can provide the employees, the staffs, the other personals of the organization, some good role models that you can take your main roles from that models. You practice that roles, your life roles, your work roles, your love roles from that model. They are role models. A reward system, a very, very basic system in psychology and also in management, is reward system. Everything is good, you can give some reward for it. Reward ends up to reinforcement. Reinforcement is everything and every situation and every sense that can provide, for example, repetition or increase the probability of repetition, recurrence of something good. It is reward. It is reinforcement. And hiring decision and hiring policies, how can you hire the people? How can you hire the experts for your company, for your organization? And the strategy, the structure, that's very, very important. Strategy structure is more important than the strategy. Because the strategy is a concept. It's a conceptual definition. How can you convert this strategy to an operation? It is a strategy structure. So with role modeling, reward system, hiring decision, and a strategy structure, with Mr. His, a leader can shape and consolidate the organizational culture. Mr. Modeling, reward, His, HI for hiring, and S for strategy structure. Some people, some research, not some people, say that leadership is not significant, it's not important, it's not brilliant, it's not effective, it is insignificant. Okay, why not? Everything has some problems. Nobody and nothing is complete. Environment is more important than leadership. Internal culture and structure determine the course organization takes. Internal culture and structure. And leadership accounts for only 7% to 15% of performance in some studies. Leaders have little discretion, and leadership is a romantic myth. I don't know why we love the word romantic for leadership, because leadership basically is a soft skill, not a hard skill. It's a soft skill. It's a characteristic of one's personality. Because of that, we say art and science of leadership. Leadership as a science is based upon the research, the evidence-based research, the evidence-based outcome. Okay, it is the science of leadership. But that part is art. Art is related to your own self. It is not only related to your science, to the research, to the document, to the registration and other things. So we say art and science of leadership. And the other part, some researchers and a lot of researchers also, not some research, says that leadership is significant. Leadership is one of many important factors. Leaders provide vision and direction. You follow your leaders. Leaders has followers. So the direction, the vision is from leadership. Leaders are critical in orchestrating change. As we talked about it before, that when you want, your organization want, your society want, your community want, your world want to change, we all always need leaders. Leaders for direction, where we want to go, and how we can go, orchestrating, cooperation, coordination. I love the word orchestrating because in a music orchestration, you see that everybody is playing his or her own instrument, not other people's instrument. Everybody is playing his or her own instrument, but it is in harmonization with other instruments. So you feel good about the music in orchestration. It is not noise, it is voice. But if there is no harmonization between the instruments, between the instrument players, okay, everybody again play his or her own instrument. But you cannot hear any good voices. There's a lot of noises, not voices, because there is not orchestrating, harmonization. So because of this example, I love the word orchestrating change, not harmonizing, not cooperation, not coordination. It is orchestrating change, harmonizing the different part of change together to achieve a single and a good and a unique outcome, goal, result, anything you want to call it. And leadership can account for close to half of performance in some cases. Half of performance in some cases, 50%. Wow. And leadership's impact is moderated by situational factors. You see that, okay, half of performance in some cases shows that leadership is effective. And what about the other half? It is situational factors. Leadership, the impact of leadership. Leadership, one of several key factors in organizational performance. Several, not only, not unique. So situational, external, environmental, and other factors can impact the outcome of an organization. Leaders are essential in providing vision and direction. That's good. We talked about it before. Leaders' impact differs in different situations. Take care. Leadership is not an absolute matter, an absolute issue, an absolute object. It is very, very relative. Very relative. Approximately, leadership can do a good and effective outcome, can receive direction, orchestration, harmonization, but leaders are essential in providing vision and direction, and leaders' impact differs in different situations. Followers are also key to success. Sometimes we talk about some things that to be seen and very, very simple, a very simple things. For example, followers are also key to success. Okay. It is very simple, but it's very important. And sometimes simple things are not seen easily. Why? Because a lot of us ignore the simple things. For example, if you are a good leader, you have a good authority and you have a good influence on your followers. Sometimes you should have some exaggerated image of yourself, of your influence. Okay. And after that, what's happened? After some time, you will use your followers. For example, because the word follower is very, very common in the social media, especially sometimes of social media. In that part, you can see it. Then when you don't pay attention to your followers, after sometimes you will lose your followers only in social media, not in real world. Also, I think social media is a part of real world, sometimes major part of real world, but it is social media, it is virtual world. Cannot see the real people. But followers in social media as an organization can change your outcomes. Think about it. Think about it. And now you can see two styles of leadership: control-oriented leadership and result-oriented leadership. And I want to talk to you about it, that honestly, it is not about the leadership only in organizations. A lot of you can see that it's here in your family, in your friendship, in your relationship, in your partnership, and in your social connections. Also, because we are talking about the organizations, yes, we can have two roles for leaders. We can have two styles of leadership: control-oriented leadership and result-oriented leadership. Well, in this session, we don't want to talk about the advantages and disadvantages of the styles. Only know that there are two new and basic conceptual styles of leadership. It's about the concepts, not about the operations. Also, you see algorithm here that shows the operation, but it's the graph for concepts, not for the operation. Operations are very, very more detailed than you can see in the picture. Okay, it is plan, organize, lead, control, and results. In control-oriented leadership, this is only one thing the leader doesn't do, only doing. Planning, organizing, leading, control, and results, and after that, feedback again to plan. All are done by leaders. It is not leader, it is owner. It is not leader. At the best version, he or she is a manager. At the best version, honestly, he or she is a chef, is a boss, is a chief. But result-oriented leadership is very, very related to their results. And in this style of leadership, you give other people's, other personnel, other staffs, your employees, your family members, your friends, your partner, other people, you say and think and show them the result you wanted as a leader in the movement, in an organization, in the family, in other parts of your life. You as a leader show them and tell them that what a result do you want as a director, as a leader, as someone who is at the first line of the fight, at the first line of achieving the goal. You only talk about the results, and you give them a lot of freedom to use the choices, to use the chances, and accountability and responsibility. They are accountable and responsible for their action to achieving the results. It's very good and very heavy. Why good? Because everybody can do it on her or his own procedure. Why is it heavy? Because you have freedom, and in the contrast, in the other side of the coin of the freedom, it is responsibility. You have freedom, and also you should be responsible for your jobs, for your doing, for your actions, for your behaviors in gaining and achieving the goals and the results the leader has determined before your action. It is very modern, and as you see, plan and organize, doing, achieving results and feedback and control and other things are by the followers, not by the leader. And the last part of this discussion about the first chapter is barriers to change. There's a basic questions. Why people don't change? Why human beings are change resistant? And why organizations are change resistant? What are the barriers to change? Internal barriers and external barriers. Perceived financial pressures. Perceived, not real, perceived financial pressures. When you use the word perceive, it is your perception, your meaning about something. Sometimes it is real or near the reality. Sometimes it is very far from the reality. So when you talk about the perception, the meaning you give to the acts, you give to the events, you give to the situations, it is perception, your perception. For example, a very good word here is perceived future. How do you think about the future? It is perceived future. What is the meaning of future for you? You see it dark, you see it bright, you see it brilliant, you see it destroy, I don't know. It is your perception of the future. It is not your future. I want to say about an example. For example, when somebody doesn't have very, very, very fitted body, very good body with a good shape. Okay, but it's not very bad. It is not very well shaped. It's ordinary body. Okay, everybody says that your body is not too bad, not too good, it is ordinary. But he or she think that her or his body is very, very bad shaped. It is not body, it is image of body, it is body image. Body image is your perceived body, not real body. How do you perceive your body? How do you feel about the shape of your body? How do you think about your body shape? It is your body image, it is not your real body. Perception is the most important humanistic part of every human connection or communication, perception. Different persons, different perceptions. Different perceptions, different results. And different results, feel emotional results, action results, and different outcomes, real outcomes in your life. We'll talk about it more in the next and future sessions. But at first, I want to tell you that perception in leadership, in communication, in friendship, in relationship, and other types of interpersonal, not intrapersonal, interpersonal communication. It is very, very important, and honestly, maybe the first and the most important element of every human action is his or her perception, that sometimes is called attitude. Internalized perception is called attitude. And short-term orientation. When you are talking about leadership, you are not talking about the short-term operation, which is long-term. It's about the horizon, about the perspective. It is not near to you. It is very far. It is accessible. It is not accessible, but you can see it. Leader can see the future, Okay, it is not accessible. If it is accessible, it is not future. But it is visible. So it is not short term. Short term is for management, for present moment, for here and now. Okay, everything is here. We want to manage it, to administrate it, and go forward in the same old directions. It is short term, yes. And top management is still focused on one person. Sometimes when the top level managements are still, instead of focusing on the group, instead of focusing on the future, instead of focusing on our directions in one person, it is not attachment, it is dependency. The manager is dependent to one group or one person. It is a barrier of change because the area of change, area of choices and chances for choices is very limited. When you are focused on one person, or one group, on one concept, change is the other side, is the different side in opposition to the stability. Change is not stable. Change is always dynamic. And focus on individual rather than group performance. It is one of the basic barriers to change, even in family. When you want to have some, for example, personal and private goals in the family, okay, you cannot change the family because everything is related to that person's goals or mindset and everything. But the family, when you look at the family as an organization and see that the interpersonal and intrapersonal, the relationship between the persons is interpersonal, the relationship with someone with him or herself is intrapersonal, okay, you can create some changes for the peoples, for the family as a group, for the family as an organization. And employee input and creativity are not fully considered. It is one of the change barriers. Employee input and creativity not fully considered. It is considered, but not fully. It's a partially considered. Okay, when employee cannot see that his creativity is fully considered, step by step, he or she will be hopeless, and after that, helpless. And traditional organizations, there is a common word in opposition of tradition. When you use tradition for everything, it is a position of change. It is not modern. It is not bad or good, but it is not changeable. But in tradition, it has a very heavy, deep roots, and deep roots cannot change because they are deep. And traditional management style, sometimes the organizational structure is not very old, but the management styles is very old, and it's the major problem of the organization for changing is not the organizational structure. It's good and modern and changeable, but the manager doesn't think so modern and doesn't think so toward the changes. But the next part and the next session, as you see here, as I talked to you before that, it is the global and cultural context. I love this chapter because as a leader, even as a manager, even as a chief, you should have a good analysis about the culture, especially in America, especially in US, because there are very, very different cultures here. Not only you should know details about each culture, but also you should know about the cultural and contextual and cultural context effect on your job, on your personality, on your relationship, even on your marriage. So I love this chapter because I think in addition to knowledge, this chapter helps you to broadcast your inner feelings in the good context, especially when it is not a good culture, it is not a effective management, for example, managerial procedure, but you can do it for yourself at the best type and the best version of communication. If you know something about the cultural context, effects on yourself, on your family, on your community, on your society, and especially on your organization, you can express yourself in a good way, even when you have bad experience. I want to talk to you about it after some sessions, that in emotion, we have two components: emotion expression, emotion experience, and emotion expression. A lot of people doesn't have any good emotion experience. And after that, they didn't have any good emotion expression. And when you don't express your emotions, when you don't talk to other people about your emotions, at first, you will talk to yourself. So let's start the chapter. Elements of culture. What is the first thing and best thing that you remember when I want to talk about culture with you? Values, customs, ceremonies, specific behaviors, and differentiation between people, between geographical differentiation, racial differentiation, or ethnical differentiation. All of them. All the words we use was the words for elements of culture, values. Every culture has its own values, set of norms. Yeah, normal action and normal action between two different cultures may be interpreted with two different ways. You can see, for example, about the religious actions, religious ceremonies, or sexual actions, or even political actions. You can see that one political action, one sexual action, one religious action, religious ceremony, in one country with a specific culture, it's good, interpreted good. And another culture, another country, it is bad. It is related to the norms, to the customs, to the values, to the standards and the assumptions and pre-assumptions that take care. If I cannot see your norms in your behaviors, it is not your norms. It is not your culture. Why? One of the best and most important part of cultural pressure is behavioral pressure. Culture guides behaviors. Culture produces repetition of behaviors. Again and again and again, the same culture, the same behavior in different people, in different situations. We can see in your society that same cultures, people from one culture, the same culture, has same actions, same behavior, same emotions, same thinking, mindset in different positions. Different people in different position from one culture has or have one methodology of behaviors and makes the group unique and different from other groups. Okay. Culture is the symbol of a group. Culture is the sign of a group. Culture is the brilliant sign. It talks to everybody that I am from this culture or I am from that culture. It is the cultural sign. It is the cardinal sign. That we talk about it, that every culture, every cultural group, every group has some brilliant, some cardinal signs about the contents and forms of the culture. of the belonging culture. So when you want to talk about the levels of culture, really we don't have any international culture. The words are different, cultural and cross-cultural. We don't have any international culture. Why? It's very clear that why we don't have any international culture. Culture is specific for one group, geographical group, religious group, sexual group, economic group, political group. It is culture. Sometimes it reminds me, the word culture reminds me about the races, ethnicities, religions, geography. Sometimes in different parts is show me the philosophy of mind, philosophy of life. This is culture. For example, a culture for practical mind, a culture for introversion mind, a culture for extroversion. It is a culture, a set of norms, a set of values, a set of behaviors, a set of actions, a set of mindsets. But it's not it is not international. When you talk about the international, it is cross-cultural. For example, we know that the weight of the brain is between 130 grams to 140 grams. Okay. It is about these weights in different people. Only about, for example, 100 grams different between different people and different country and different culture. It is cross-cultural. It is not related to a specific culture. If you go to Africa, if you go to Asia, if you go to Europe, if you are in America, and you can weight the, for example, brain of the people, okay, it is cross-cultural. The weight of the brain, not the content of the brain, not the type of the, for example, complexity of brain. It is cross-cultural. It is not cultural. It is international. So when you want to talk about the levels of culture, at first begins with national culture. Before everything, this is national culture. In national culture, there are several, for example, in America, you have a lot of immigrant people. You have a lot of races. You have a lot of ethnicities. Okay, these are group culture. Why? Because one group has its own values, ceremonies, norms, behaviors, actions, mindset, emotions, emotional lifestyle, and other things. So, nation is divided to many cultural groups that are distinguished from each other by their norms, by their values, by their actions, by their ceremonies, by their ethical principles, issues. And in one group, there are several organizations. Family is an organization. Okay, the norm of the nation is the norm of the group. The norm of the group is the norm of the organization. Okay, that's true, but very, very detailed differences between the organization, groups, and nation. So levels of culture are national culture, group culture, and organizational culture. One of the best theories about understanding culture that I love, and when at the first time I studied this, it gave me a good perspective on behavioral aspects of people, on the how people in different countries think about one single thing, one the same thing, why they are different. The theory was Edward Hall's cultural context. It is very, very good theory, very good theory, very brilliant theory. You, after study the theory, you will have a good scale for interpreting the international and national behaviors of the different countries. Why? At first, it says about high context culture and low context cultures. What is high context? What is context at first? In everyone behavior, we can see and use three words: content of behavior, shape of behavior, and context of behavior. For example, the behavior you can see, it is shape of behavior. The intention for the behavior is content of behavior. Why he or she has done such a behavior. It is the content of behavior. But how do you think about the causes, about the originality of behavior? And why do you interpret his or her behavior in such a way? It is the context. It is the background. Background is very important, very, very important. Why we say attitude is everything. At first, we thought that attitudes is the content of behavior, the subjective part of behavior, invisible part of behavior. After some times, we reached to this conclusion that attitudes, yes, is internalized information. Yeah, we can consider attitude as an internalized information. It's a CAP model: knowledge, attitude, and practice. A lot of people say that why, for example, scientists that knows well about their field of science, sometimes, and maybe a lot of times, don't use their, for example, knowledge. You're a cardiologist, you know better than everybody else that, for example, the disadvantages of smoking for your heart. You're a cardiologist, your proficiency, you are expert in the field is cardiology, but you smoke regularly as a cardiologist. Why knowledge cannot end to practice? What is the hidden file here? It is attitude, knowledge, attitude, and practice. It's a CAP model. We can see in the internet about it if it is interesting for you. It is the context. So in the culture, when we talk about the high context, that every nonverbal language or every verbal action or language has a hidden meaning, has secret meaning, especially in the countries that have high context cultures. They should consider a lot of secret meanings for the observable behaviors, actions. For example, rely on environmental cues and context. For example, in some countries, we can see some types of countries. Japanese context, it is high context. Chinese, Koreans, African Americans, Native Americans even, Arabs and Persian people, Greeks, it is in the middle. Arabs, Persian people, and Greeks in the middle level of high and low context. They are not higher. But within Swiss Germans and Scandinavians and European North American, okay, it is lower context. At the first, you should consider that high context culture or low context culture is not a matter of goodness or badness. It is the feature of context. It is related to the history of that nation, of that country, and also the outcome. It is not good, it is not bad. It is only trait, but have specific features for each country, each culture. High context cultures rely on environmental cues and context. In opposition, low context cultures rely on explicit verbal and written messages. It is not environmental. As you see, it is reality. In low context, as you see, or as you hear, it is related to your five senses. As you see, as you write, as you hear, and other things. There is no secret meaning. It's just the same as you see, just the same as you talk about it, as you hear from others. Okay, but in high context, it is very different. The thing that you talk to me about it may have some other meanings for me. So it is interpretation. It is interpretation. You have a lot of interpretation, and sometimes you have some distortion, because interpretation is based upon your past life history, and if you have a bad past life history, you may have some bad interpretation. That bad interpretation is not realistic interpretation, and instead of calling it interpretation, we should call it distortion. As you say in psychology, it is reality distortion. Also, high context, it doesn't mean reality distortion. It's a very, very lower level, because reality distortion may be a sign of bad mental illnesses. But sometimes you have some interpretation. In the other side, when you have low context, okay, that's good. You see the same thing, it is shown to you. You hear the same thing, it is talked to you. But maybe you cannot interpret, and you cannot the hidden real levels of reality. Hidden real levels of reality. Oh, you are not complicated. It is clear. Everything is clear. Okay, that's good. But if you're someone that he or she has conversation with you from, for example, a high context, it's a bad communication, because your point of view, you are looking at the same problem, same object with different point of view. So subtle cues convey messages. Secret cues convey messages for high context, but the specific and clear words convey messages. I want to indicate that in love relationships, that very intimate, in intimate relationships, not only in love relationship or romantic relationship, in intimate relationship, that the trust is a basic principle of every type of intimate relationship. You should have the same perspective for the same issues, for the same problems. So I have seen a lot of people that they have a good onset for their relationship, but they cannot continue a relationship with happiness. Why? Because the depth of the context, it is high context and low context, and different interpretation and different distortions sometimes for the same things can change your discussion, your disagreement to argument, to battle, to fight, to conflict, So, for example, in marital status, in marriage or in other things, you should know that it is very important that you have the same way of interpretation, not the same interpretation. For example, if you think that everything has a hidden file, okay, you are from a high context culture. It's not too bad, not too good. It's your culture. And if you think that everything is clear and very real, not hidden file, not secret life, not cellular cues, okay, it's not bad, it's not good. But it's different from that part of culture, from that type of culture. So in high context culture, when you assume that there are a lot of things hidden in your relationship, in your organization, in your marital, in your family and other things, you should trust. You cannot clarify everything because you assume, or in reality, there are a lot of hidden details in your department, in your organization, in your relationship. So trust is more important than legal and formal contract because the law, the legal issues defined based upon the previous issues. Okay, it is a law. It is a social law. But in law context, formal and legal contracts guides action. Indirect communication, it cannot be direct. For example, in high context culture, high context culture countries, there are a lot of jokes about different things because it is indirect communication. You can talk about the important things in the jokes, in the something apparently unrelated to the main problem. It is in the other way, in direct way, indirect communication, I will communicate with you. But in cultural, in lower cultural context, okay, low context, direct communication is very important. No. Also, sometimes some sense of humor is lower in low context. Why? Because not abstract thinking is lower. It is not very deep. It is not very complicated. Maybe deep. Maybe, yes, I think sometimes low context, maybe deep, but it is not very complicated. It is simple, but deep. So direct communication and specific instructions. For example, in Europe, as we say here, for example, in German, you see instruction, clear instruction, checklist for everything. Why? Because it is lower context. You do it on the instructions, on the checklist, and also in US. And nobody is self-sacrifice for other people. Okay, I cannot sacrifice myself for you. It is low context. It is clear that I have my own right of choice, my own choice of life, and my own chance of life. And you also. It is very clear. It is low context. Not bad, not good. I repeat again, not bad, not good. It is the feature of context, feature of culture, and feature of cultural context. Another theory is Hofstede's culture dimensions that we know about the 5-dimension individualism in context of collectivism, power distance, uncertainty avoidance, masculinity, and time orientation. More important than other things is individualism versus collectivism. In individualistic cultures, for example, US has an individualistic culture, but Japan has collectivistic culture. What is the difference? Not bad, not good, only difference. Individual is autonomous from the group. I have my own right of life. I have my own time of life. I am responsible for my actions. I can do it at the payoff for my life, for my choices, and for my chances. Okay, I am individual. I am with you, but I don't belong you. Sometimes I want to have a time for talking about the love style with you in the other sessions. Because love style is part, maybe some time of leadership styles, because love is a matter of very, very complicated leadership. It's a very hard communication to lead love, and very general. Broken heart is very, very general in people. So as a sample of, for example, for complicated leadership, you can work on the love relationships. Personal goals have priority over group goals. Okay, the first rank is me, not the group, not the society. It is bad? Not. It is good? Also not. It is related to your goal, personal goal or group goals. Individual attitudes determine behavior. Individual attitudes. And relationships are based on exchange. What give, what take. What give, what take. Exchange. Others are for and not part of self. The main core of the relationships in individualistic cultures are self. The main cores are self. My core is myself. Your core is yourself. It is individualistic. It is not group-based. But in collectivistic cultures, individual is dependent on in-group. I'm not individual, I'm a member. When you talk about the member, it is about the group. It's a matter of group. You cannot be a member of yourself. You are a member of your group, your belonging, your relationship, your marriage, your family, your organization. When you are talking about collectivistic cultures, it is talking about membership, not self. So individual is dependent on in-group, and group goals have priority over individual goals. So good, so powerful, so powerful. If I am sick, you work instead of me. If you are sick, I work instead of you. One for all for one. Collectivistic cultures. Group goals have priority over individual goals. You don't have any privacy in this approach, any privacy, or very, very small privacies, very. But group is everything, family is everything, organization is everything, community is everything, society is everything, national and nationalistic and nationalism is everything. So social norms determine behavior. Pay attention. Individual attitudes determine behavior in individualistic cultures, and social norms determine behavior in collectivistic cultures. And relationships are based on communal terms, not on exchange. Where and when do you have a good relationship in collectivistic cultures? When you have a good profit for your community, for your group. And in-group members are close. In this part, you see, others are far and not part of self. In-group members are close. A lot of therapeutic groups, for example, NA groups for addiction, in-group members are very close together, very close. They're supportive and directive, support each other and direct in each other, and it's very good. Research shows that, for example, NA group for addiction are very, very efficient group. Why? Because you are not alone. And also you are not an individual. You don't want to be an individual. You think that if you are an individual, you will go to substance dependency, you will go to substance addiction, to alcohol and substance and drugs and other things. But you are in a group. In group, everybody is for another one. One for all for one. In group, members are close. But on the other side, individualism and collectivism has two divisions, vertical and horizontal. Vertical individualism or collectivism emphasis on hierarchy, and horizontal emphasis on equality. When you have hierarchy, you don't have any equality. It is hierarchy. Someone is lower, someone is higher. When equality, everyone is at the same level. So we have four: vertical collectivism, horizontal collectivism, vertical individualism, and horizontal individualism. At first, we see for vertical collectivism, rank and status among members. Don't forget, when you say vertical, it is about hierarchy. Vertical, go up. It is a power situation. But horizontal, it is at your perspective, it is equality. So vertical collectivism, it is vertical, it has ranking. Ranking and status among members, yes, there are ranks. And collectivism, why among members? Because it is collectivism. Why vertical ranking? Because it is vertical. Obedience to authority. Why obedience? Because it is vertical. Why authority? Because it is vertical. It is a power situation. Sacrifice of self. Why self? Because it is collectivism. It is not individualism. Why sacrifice? Because it's a power position. It is vertical. An example, Japan. A good country example for vertical collectivism is Japan. You know a lot of stories about the sacrifice of self for the others in Japanese culture. And horizontal collectivism. When you talk about collectivism, there is no self. Everybody is a member. What horizontal? It is equal members. So rank and status among members, ranking because vertical. In horizontal, members are equal. It is horizontal. And you see obedience to authority in vertical collectivism. In horizontal collectivism, you didn't see any vertical, any hierarchy. And sacrifice of self in horizontal collectivities, we have common sense and consensus. We have a general attitude about everything. Why general attitude? Why consensus? Because it is horizontal. Everybody is equal to another member. Yes, it is collectivism. It is membership. It is not individual. You don't have any self, or you have a relative self, not an absolute self, not a complete self. Okay, it is collectivism, but it is horizontal collectivism. Equality for all the members. It is horizontal collectivism. Decision based on consensus. Example, Israel. As the research shows that Israel has horizontal collectivism. Everybody is a member of Israel, but everybody is equal to the other. They didn't have any group pressure or any vertical collectivism. But vertical individualistic. Individualism says that you have a main core, so-called self. You are important. Your self is important than your, for example, membership. But this vertical, it has the power situation. We are vertical individualism. Each individual considered unique. Why? Because it is individualism. You are unique. You have your own self. But each individual is to others. Why? Because it is vertical. It is vertical. Someone is higher, someone is lower. An example, United States. The best example for vertical individualism is America, United States. Everybody has its own self, but everybody is to others. But in horizontal individualism, HI, each individual considered unique again. But all members are equal. It is individualism. Each individual considered unique. Maybe vertical, maybe horizontal, maybe a hierarchy, maybe the issue of equality. But all members are equal. Example, Sweden. Sweden is the best country and best example for horizontal individualism. And from Panera cross-cultural organizational cultures, we talk about the cultural organizational cultures or cultural context. And from PENAR, talk about the cross-cultural, egalitarian person, hierarchical, and task. And we can talk about it here. Globe dimensions. Power distance, degree to which power it distributed equally. Power distance. Uncertainty avoidance. Everybody wants to avoid ambiguity, or it is called ambiguity tolerance, and it is uncertainty avoidance. There's a principle, ambiguity tolerance. There is a principle in physics, I think. The founder is Heisenberg, uncertainty principle, and ambiguity tolerance also in psychology. Everybody wants to have a clear life, to have a very brilliant life, and at least very bright life. Everybody is avoiding from uncertainty, from ambiguity. It is fearful for everybody. It's something like darkness when you have ambiguity, when it is uncertainty for you. And the third part is human orientation. Degree to which fairness and kindness are valued. How much do you think you are and you have humanistic approach to your organization, to your society? And collectivism, institutional collectivism, it is degree to which collective action and distribution of resources is valued. It is something about the fair, something about the justice, something about the sharing the resources between all the members of a group. And collectivism too, it is in group, degree to which individuals are close to their family organization. Sometimes it happens that because of the organizational belonging and or for example, in other side, for your family belongings, you are so far from your organization when you have family belongings, or from your family when you have organizational belongings. The collectivism that shows the belonging of you to your community, to your society, to your organization, even to your family, basic family, original family, or other family, other types of family. It is very important that how do you think about your belonging and degree to which individual are close to their family or organization. Assertiveness, the positive part of aggression. When you have anger, you can have, you will have two types of reaction. One, aggression. Two, assertiveness. Assertiveness, degree of directness and confrontation. And certainly it's a matter of courage, not a matter of harming or hurting. It is a matter of courage. It's a matter of how courageous you are to say your thinking, your emotion, to express yourself. And gender egalitarianism, the extent of gender differentiation. And future orientation, extent of investment in the future rather than the past or present. And performance orientation. There are two orientations. One future orientation, one performance orientation. How can you see or think about the future? How can you see or thinking about the performance, degree to which performance is valued? And dimensions of diversity, secondary dimensions, marital status, education, income, religion, other group memberships, socioeconomic backgrounds, and occupation. And primary dimensions is gender, ethnicity, disability, race, age, and sexual orientation. And the main core is person, is self, is yourself, is myself. It is person. So for every person has two dimensions, primary dimensions and secondary dimensions. Suggests causal of gender differences in leadership. Sometimes also other research, it is based upon your book, but other researchers show that other reasons and other causes. At first, leadership style, balancing work and home, because especially when you are female, you have this main second work. Your home is your main second work. As a male, ordinarily you have one work, your job, concentrate it and do it, good or bad, and come back to home for rest. But as a wife, as a female, you have main second work, your home. So balancing work and home. Women are less committed to their work and career. Women have less experience in organizations. Women quit their jobs more often. Yes, women are less educated sometimes. Latent and settled discrimination, persistent gender stereotypes, it's very ordinary, glass ceiling, and cultural factors. And cultural mindset. What is cultural mindset? A cultural mindset is a way of thinking that takes culture into consideration in deliberation, decision-making, and behaviors. Culture is integral to all thoughts, decisions, actions, and not an afterthought. Having a cultural mindset goes beyond a simple set of skills. Take a minute. Take a minute. Hold on. When you are talking about the cultural mindset, it is the mindset based upon your culture, your original culture, your current culture, your life culture. That part of culture that you are experiencing and expressing in your life, experiencing in yourself and expressing out of yourself. So elements of a cultural mindset is open to and aware of cultural differences. It is something like emotional intelligence, awareness of yourself and awareness of your something out of yourself. It is open to and aware of cultural differences and their impact of perceptions and behaviors. Such a keyword, such a good keyword, perception and action. Inquisitive about how others do things. Appreciate and respect cultural diversity. Aware of your own cultural values. Willing to share and exchange cultural information and willing to learn and expand. See yourself as part of the world. Use culture as one of the bases for understanding problems. Proactive in addressing cultural situations. Skilled in interacting with those from different cultures. It's very important. When you are aware of your own culture, you can have good communication with other culture members, with the members of the different cultures. Sort through cultural differences and find opportunities to innovate. It is cultural mindset. It's your mindset that its roots are in your culture. Factors in becoming a multicultural organization. At the main core, you see leadership. At the center, you see leadership. So organizational culture, education and training, interact, organizational culture with education and training, and also with similar role models. And research and measurement with education and training, and accountability, interact, and dual interact, and accountability with research and measurement and organizational policies, and other things, for example, similar role models and others. And in the center is leadership. Factors in becoming a multicultural organization. When you talk about the multicultural organization, that at the basis of the managing and leading the organization, it is not multinational organization, it is multicultural organization. From different cultures, share together the shared meaning, the joint meaning, and the joint goals. Differences are respected, but the similarity are used for improving organization forward to the predefined goals. It is leading diversity. Focus on common vision and purpose. Celebrate all cultures. I love it. I love it. The word, the phrase soft tools. Provide the soft tools. Soft tools is something, life skills, something, the tools that you are not educated in university. It is not informal tools that they are very, very, very important in your daily life. Provide the soft tools, vision and purpose. Allow others to develop the hard tools, strategy, structure, and systems. It is hard tools. You can see them, you can measure them, you can observe them, and place diverse people in leadership positions. And leading diversity, emphasizing learning and challenging existing assumptions is very important. To be under questions the present assumptions and equalize power. It is, when you talk about the power, it is very hard to equalize because power maybe an ordinary has the different positions. One part for the, for example, manager, one part for the employee, one part for the leader, and one part for the, for example, ordinary followers. It is equalized power is very, very important and a hard matter to do in an organization. So when you talk about it, it is the diversity, which is very hard. And provide them training to improve interpersonal trust. Trust is a basic element of every leadership, every communication, every movement forward. Increase trust through integrity, contact, and transparency. Transparency in diversity is very important, very, very important. Because when you are from different cultures, it is very important to know that you should have some integrity and some transparency about the different values, different ceremonies, to gain the same and the unique goals of your organization, of your family, of your community, of your country, of your nation, and other things. So it is the end of this session. I appreciate you to talk to me and to hear me. And it is the first session for the next 8 sessions, 8 weeks. And I'm waiting to hear from you by email and send me your feedbacks, send me your questions. Our next session will be on the following Monday. I think, I don't know the date of the Monday, But on the following Monday on 11:30, we will talk and do our next sessions. Thanks for spending time with me. Have a good weekend.